The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod and we're coming to you live from the Warner Center in Woodland Hills, California. This is the home for the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. It's also the home for Autism Live. We're thrilled to be back here with you. If you weren't watching us over the weekend, a lot happened over the weekend and we're going to be talking about that a little bit later on. But suffice it to say, if you have not watched our video right now on YouTube and on Facebook that says, so this happened, I offer it up to you. We're going to show it later on. But we had a really good time with Rosie O'Donnell on Saturday night, who might be watching right now because she tells us she's a viewer for the show. So we love Rosie and more. We're going to talk about all that a little bit later on. But it was a very exciting weekend. All the more reason to tune in to Facebook Live on Autism Live over the weekend, because especially the next few weeks, we have a lot of stuff going on. Okay, I want to remind you that you can watch this show in a lot of different ways. In just a few minutes, we're going to be joined by Dr. Doreen Granpeesheh, and later on, we have Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy, and we want this all to be interactive. So Samantha's going to show you some of the different ways that you can participate. Don't forget that we're now live on Twitter and Periscope as well. More ways for you to watch. And as always, you can be watching us on autism-live.com. That is our homepage, and there's a lot to do on that page. If you click on the triangle that's on the computer screen, it will start playing the live show or the most recently recorded live show. To the side of all that are a bunch of boxes, a series of boxes. And one of them says your questions. That's where you want to put your cursor and type and hit enter. When you do, it shows up here on my screen. Actually, it's on this one today. And you can be having a conversation with me, but you can also have a conversation with our experts. It's totally free, totally anonymous. You don't have to log in. There's no username, no password, none of that. And the nice thing about that, there are other ways that you can communicate with us. We love it when you talk to us on Facebook and on YouTube and on Periscope and on Twitter. But when you participate on our homepage, it's completely anonymous and nobody can see who's asking the question. And that's a nice thing. Now, we have one little bit of business before we get to Dr. Granpeesheh. If you watched last Thursday, we had the amazing Kelly Lester on the show, and she is the creator of Easy Lunchboxes. It's really an amazing way to be able to pack a healthy lunch for your child to be able to eat, and super, super convenient. So many of you responded. Kelly was so generous and gave us a set. That's the lunchbox, a set of the 4 different, and you see that there are 3 different colors there. You'll get one of the set of colors plus the little dippers to put the sauces and the hummus. And I love the way Kelly said hummus. It was, I love that. But the whole set, Easy Lunchboxes, we're giving away one of them. And to enter, what you need to do is write to us at autismlive@gmail.com. Samantha's got it up on the screen for you right now. We're going to let this contest go for the next 2 weeks, because some of you said with the conveyed, the scallop, that you didn't have enough time. So we're going to let this go for 2 weeks. Write in and say, I want an Easy Lunchbox, and make sure that you give us our address because we have to mail it to somebody. We'll be looking for that. So make sure that you write in and do that. And I don't remember, Samantha, are we also taking subscriptions on YouTube? We set these rules. We'll figure that out. For now, just email us and tell us, I want the Easy Lunchboxes. Although we do appreciate it when you subscribe to us on YouTube. It's a great way to keep in touch with what we're doing so that you never miss out on a video like you would have missed out on Saturday night. Ooh, it got wild. We'll talk about that all a little bit later on. But right now, it is time for Ask Dr. Doreen.
Dr. Doreen Grand-Pichet is the
Dr. Doreen is an expert in autism. Doreen Grand-Pichet.
Dr. Grand-Pichet.
Dr. Doreen Grand-Pichet.
Dr. Doreen Grand-Pichet is a visionary in the field of autism. Now you can ask her questions on Ask Dr. Doreen. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Autism Live and to Ask Dr. Doreen. We have with us in the studio this morning live Dr. Doreen Grand-Pichet, and we're thrilled to have you here.
So good to be back.
Well, I know you've been traveling and you have more traveling to do, but we're
2 more are going.
Well, we're thrilled that you're here with us this
Thank
morning.
you.
For people who don't know and haven't watched the show before, you are a true expert in the field of autism. I believe the preeminent expert in the field of autism.
Thank you so much.
You've been in this field for more than 30 years. You were telling us last time that it's about to be, we're
40.
about to 40 years
Next
in
year.
this field. No one believes that. Let's face it, your facial cream is way too good. Nobody believes that. But you have all of that experience in working with individuals on the spectrum from very small children up through senior citizens. You have such a wealth of knowledge and you're a visionary in this field. I think largely because you're able to see it from all the different angles, you know, from the point of view of the very small kids who aren't able to communicate, the point of view of the teenagers, the adults, the parents, the caregivers, the therapists who are working with them, from the insurance companies and how they're funding things. You're able to look at it and put 2 and 2 together and figure out where we need to go and set us on the path, and we're all
Thank you very
grateful
much,
to you.
Sharon. Yeah, well, I try.
Well,
And
you know what?
I've
You
learned
do
a
more
lot
than
in
that.
40 years. I think it's just one of our benefits, honestly. I come to see so many other people who are just entering the field, and there's a lot that you learn nowadays, but, you know, 40 years of experience is really helpful. It teaches you a lot in this field. This is such a young field, and it has changed so much, and we've learned so much from our kids, and every child that I see, I learn something new.
Yes.
So it's every family. So it's kind of a cool place to be.
Well, we're grateful for you. We're grateful
you.
for the things that you have set in motion, like the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. And also, we don't give you credit for this all the time, but you're the one who founded Autism Care and Treatment Today, the wonderful charity that has given
Fantastic
away
charity.
close to $2 million now in
Amazing.
aid to families, which is truly amazing. So, and so many other things that you do on a regular basis, and boards that you have sat on, and ways in
Thank
which
you
that
very
you
much.
help. We're grateful. And with all of that you find time to spend an hour with us and answer our viewers' questions is amazing. And
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
we adore you. Okay, so I'm going to jump right in here. And first I have to give the disclaimer, though, that there is no expert in any field that could give individual specific advice in this format. It's just unreasonable to think that. It does a disservice to the individuals. Usually you need to have much more interaction. But having said that, Dr. Grand-Pichet takes the questions that you ask and that I ask and provides us with information from that base of 40 years of experience to help us to know where to go to next. So I want to jump in with a question that was emailed to us, and you guys always have the ability to email me directly, especially when you have a longer question and you want to get a little bit more in detail. You can email me at s.penrod, P-E-N-R-O-D, at autism-live.com. Okay, so this question came into us. Hi, Shannon and Dr. Doreen. You guys are doing a great job. All the information provided by Doreen is so useful. Skills for autism and eye behavioral training are great. We're in Melbourne and doing ABA for my 3.5-year-old daughter. My daughter is nonverbal and we are doing PECs with her. My question is, her understanding of language is slowly improving. Only now she can understand basic language. One of her programs in ABA is receptive labels, learning names of each item. She's not able to discriminate even between 2 items. We took a couple of months learning the names of each item. She's not able to, but she knows what she knows, the item's name, but she could not choose the correct one in random rotation. Is there any way to modify this program or make her understand the labels of each item? I am more concerned how she's going to learn names of colors, animals, fruits, and so on. Her program supervisor has now changed the program to 2D matching pictures, which she has already mastered, as we say, put with cup or put with shoe. Will this program be useful to her in learning the labels? Please help.
So no, I don't. You don't need to go back to a matching lesson. There's excuse me, there's this thing that we call, there's 7 steps when you go into discrimination training, and I'll tell you what the steps are right now, but it'll be a little bit difficult for you, because I think what would be helpful is, since you are on IBT, to go back to IBT. I think there's got to be a module on discrimination training and learn that, because there's a process when you start to rotate to receptive labels. So let's say, what are they? You have shoe and cup, I think? Or
well, they were
let's
saying
just use those
for the
examples.
matching ones, they were doing put with cup and put with shoe.
So it doesn't matter. So you have 2 stimuli, shoe and cup. And the 7 steps are that you first start with just mass trials of that one target. And so that would be shoe. And so you're doing mass trials of touch, shoe, touch, shoe, touch, shoe. That's step 1. Step 2 is you bring in distractors. Distractors are other objects that you never name. So you'll have shoe there, and you'll have, let's say, a pen, but you'll always say touch shoe. And you'll rotate, and you're still saying touch shoe, and you'll then bring in another distractor, like a piece of paper or whatever it is, but you'll still say touch shoe. So it's just an object that's on the table with shoe, and you could have 3 distractors, whatever it is, but you just want to make sure that in the presence of other things, shoe is solid.
And what we call that, when you're only working on the one thing, is a mass trial.
Yeah,
for people
it's a
who
mass
aren't
trial.
doing the jargon, who haven't tuned into the jargon, so that's called a mass trial. You're only working on them learning one thing ever, which is the shoe.
Right, but so the first stage is just mass trial. The second stage is sort of a mass trial with a distractor.
Okay.
So, and then you go, and now you've kind of mastered shoe on its own with a distractor. Now you put it away for a bit. Now you go to the second object, which is cup. So now you do the same thing with cup. So now you do mass trials alone with cup, and then you do mass trials of cup with other distractors. Not with shoe yet, just with other distractors. And you do the same thing until there's 100%, and you flip positions, and you put multiple distractors out and all that, and then you realize, okay, we know we have cup and we have shoe, and we're good to go. Now you bring one of the, so now you have 2 targets, but they've never been rotated with each other. So what you do is now you bring the target back, let's say shoe, and you'll have cup rotating with it, but you will not name cup. So you'll have cup on the table, and now cup, which is a prior target, is sort of acting as a distractor. So you'll have cup on the table numerous times, but you're only asking for shoe, 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 and cup is on the table. And then you put that away, and then you do the opposite. You have cup as the target and shoes on the table as a distractor, but you're not asking for shoe, you're just asking for cup. And that's the last stage before you do random rotation. Now you're finally ready to rotate cup and shoe, which means you'll have cup and shoe on the table. Once in a while you ask for cup, once in a while you ask for shoe. You randomly request those different things. Now, if your child gets stuck at that point, after you've done the 7 steps of discrimination, now you have other things that you can do. Like, for instance, you can put the item that you're asking closer to the child. So let's say I'm working on cup and pen, and what I'll do is I'll put them down and I'll say touch cup, and the child will get it wrong. So one of the things I could still do is I could do this. I could put the cup closer to the child and say touch cup, and children generally will go to the one that's closer. Sometimes our kids have a hard time crossing their midline, so you want to make sure that if the child is like always pointing to one side, you fix that problem separately. First, you have them learn how to point across, and then you want to make sure that the object is being prompted. There's many ways you can prompt. Like, for instance, you could say, you can make the other object, like the shoe, a much smaller. You can semi-cover it. You can point to the thing the child is. So there's a lot of you can use prompt strategies now. But, essentially, you will be able to get, and that first phase of teaching the child discrimination training is one of the most important things. And it does lead to a lot more learning, and it's very, very important, and it'll help also with your PECS program, obviously, because what the child's doing there is discriminating between a bunch of different icons, hopefully. So do that. Look up the discrimination training module on IBT. It'll review all of this and help you quite a bit.
Okay, and I just want to say from the parent point of view, because experts such as Dr. Grant-Pichet have done this so many times,
Yeah.
that they're coming from a place of complete and total competence and confidence that it's going to work. And
Yeah.
as a parent, we haven't seen it before. We don't know what it's going to look like, and we're worried, and it seems like it's taking a long time, and it does take a while.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I always tell parents is watch the movie The Miracle Worker and watch Annie Sullivan work tirelessly with Helen Keller, who can't see or hear what's going on, and how they work on doll and water and doll and water. Because there's a moment later on when suddenly, and I don't remember which one she understands first. I think she understands water first, but it might be doll. But when she gets one of them and then she gets the second one, then it opens the whole world. But it takes forever to get the first two. And you have to come from a place of patience, knowing your child is going to get it. But it's going to for one child it might take 10 times, another child it might take 100, another one might take 1,000, and accommodations and moving those things around, as Dr. Grandpichet said. But it's going to happen. But get
Be
those
patient
two.
with it and don't give up. Yeah, totally. Let me add to that.
Yeah.
Almost none of our children, very, very few children pick up the first two discriminations without doing the 7 steps. So if you haven't done the 7 steps, you just haven't done it right. So don't worry, it's not about your child. Almost, I want to say 95, 98% of our kids do get it as soon as you do the 7 steps.
There you go.
So it's a very clear procedure that you have to follow. That's why we made it, because it was very obvious to us that the kids were having a hard time getting to rotation.
Yes.
And so this became something that we could do. There's other tricks you can do too. If you go into the discrimination training module, it'll also show you about expanded trials. And there's lots of other things you could do to help the child remember the targets better, or understand the targets better. In the meantime, if it doesn't work, you come back and we'll talk about it, because when it doesn't work and you've done everything right, and your supervisor, by the way, should know this or should go back and do this, then we're going to look and make sure your child has sensory input abilities to actually be able to see the targets well, understand them well, they're clear, there's no visual issues, there's no hearing issues, all that too.
Right, there you go. But the one thing that they said was, I'm worried about when we get to colors. I think as a parent, you get so overwhelmed thinking, oh my gosh, if it's taking this long to learn these two things, cup and shoe, how are we going to get to the bigger things? But once they get it,
it's just
so
fast.
Then it's like this crazy moment where your child turns into a sponge, and you'll be so excited. So get ready to celebrate when your child gets this. It will be okay.
And you will still keep doing those 7 steps for a very long time with all of these. But right now, it'll take a long time to do the initial 7 steps. Later, the 7 steps go like this. Like, it'll be so fast because you only have to introduce it 1 or 2 trials. Children pick up very quickly using the right procedures.
Yeah, I always make fun of and say, to parents, and I tell therapists this too, that when we first started ABA and we'd waited and we were like, oh, okay, we can't wait to do this. We've seen amazing things. We'd seen Logan Shepherd and we were like, whoa, it's going to be great. And then when they were doing things like touch car, I remember going, touch car? What? This is how are we going to get him ready for college with touch car? Like, you can't picture how you're going to get to all of these things, but it really speeds up. So I just want you to know that.
But so the benefit nowadays, Shannon, for I think parents who are already familiar, like this parents with skills, is that you get to see how everything builds on each other. Like in the old days, it was very hard for parents. I just met with a parent who's one of my old parents, right? And her daughter just finished her master's at the University of Edinburgh, which I'm very proud of. But we were talking about the early days. This is like early 90s. And we were talking about how many parents back then, so much of our efforts back then in California was just getting funding for the parents. So it was like back-to-back court dates. It was terrible. But so many parents would just come to my office because I had this huge board where I had written all the lessons and how they linked to each other, and how you had to start with something as basic as labels if you wanted to build on it, and parents you're doing perfect, because yes, you'll start with labels, then you'll do things like categories and you mention them, and then you'll do things like descriptors like colors and big, small, etc., etc. And actions, verbs, so that you can start making sentences. And people a lot of times, as you said, parents want to just be able to like say the entire first phrase and have the child respond that way or copy it, and that's just not how it goes.
Right, but it works. That's the thing that you need to know. Be patient and work, and in the beginning it's a little bit slow, and then it will pick up
and
exponentially.
Your child's only 3.5, which is fantastic. So, and you're doing everything, you're just great.
Just make sure you're doing enough of it. That's right. You want to double down on every waking hour and have something going on. You mentioned that you're using Skills, and for people who don't know, I just want to say Skills for Autism. Tomorrow on the show, we're having Eliana Fajeda to talk about a new product from Skills Living.
Oh my gosh.
Which is amazing. I've seen it, and for those of you who have older kids, you're just going to flip your lid. If you want to call Skills and ask questions, 877-975-4559. And you also mentioned Institute for Behavioral Training, so I want to tell people ibehavioraltraining.com. That's where you can purchase for very little money. I mean, like, because sometimes people go, well, what's very little money? We're talking sometimes $7.50 for a training that you get to do and do with your significant other and have your babysitting team do for $7.50 for all of you. It's amazing. Some of them are a little bit more, but there's nothing more than the cost of a book.
Yeah,
on the
$20
whole thing.
or something. They're like very, very inexpensive.
It's very affordable, and you can pick and choose what lessons you want to do. So you could go in and pick the one on discrimination training and do that. You're given the choice. There are trainings on there for professionals, for teachers, and for parents, and you get to decide which one you want to do. If you think that you can handle the jargon in the professional one, you go for it. If you feel like, that might be too much for me, pick one in the parent side. And you can gift those teacher ones to the teachers. I know a lot of people have teacher appreciation coming up. What a great gift to give them training that helps them to better handle your child in the classroom. And if you want to, and I know a lot of parents do this, you can spend your time on IBT so that you get a certificate. You can become a registered behavior technician, or you can get ready to sit for the test for a BCAT, which is a board certified autism technician. And then those are beginning therapists that work with your child. So I always had a sign on my bathroom mirror that said, GEMS team is only as strong as the weakest player, and I will not be the weakest player.
Yeah, that's
right?
awesome.
So you can do that for yourself, and it's very, very affordable. We're going to take a break, and then we're going to be back with more of your questions. We've got a bunch of stuff coming in on Facebook, and we got a bunch of things that you guys had sent in the live feature, so stick with us.
For the month of September, I figured I'd show you guys how to make a task completion chart to help your kids get through the hardest parts of the day. Parents have been writing into our host, Shannon Penrod, the hardest parts of the day are waking up in the morning, after school, and getting ready for bed. Please keep in mind you can always modify the task completion chart to focus on the skills that your family needs most. The template we'll be using today to make the task completion chart you can find at facebook.com/autism-live. All right, let's get to it. The materials you'll be needing are the template, cardstock, scissors, hole puncher, glue, pipe cleaner, Velcro, and photos or images. We find it more reinforcing for kids if you use images of themselves doing the tasks that you're trying to get them to complete. So what I have here to start off are photos of myself doing all the tasks that we're going to add to our task completion chart today. The first step you're going to be doing is printing the template from facebook.com/autism-live. I have it here, and the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to trim out the top. We don't need that, that's just totally excess. Now that I trim my 3 templates, I'm going to label each one with a different part of the day that we're focusing on, such as waking up, after school, and getting ready for bed. Now that I've finished labeling the templates with the appropriate time of the day, I'm going to attach the photos that go with it. For bedtime, the tasks I chose were getting ready for school, putting away toys, putting on pajamas, and brushing teeth. Now repeat this for all the rest of the day. Now that I've added the photos to the template, I am taking this along with my heavy cardstock, to hold all my tokens. I'm gonna line them up and make 3 hole punches. I'm gonna take this pipe cleaner and attach the pages together with it. We're almost done putting this together. Next, I'm gonna take my Velcro, I'm gonna put them underneath each picture. And then I'm gonna add 4 on the very edge too. Now that I've attached the rough side of the Velcro to the template, now I'm gonna take the softer side and add these to the tokens. You can use whatever you want for the tokens, whatever your child finds reinforcing. They could be stickers, images, spacemen, Pokemon, whatever they like. Before you use your task completion chart, it's really important that you do a preference assessment to see what your child finds reinforcing that day. Once you have that established, then you can tell them the rule for how this task completion chart works. So every time they get one of their tasks completed, they add a token to it. And the way the task completion chart functions is like a token economy. So after they put a token under each one of these tasks, they can trade it in for their reinforcer for the day. Now that you've made your task completion chart, hopefully your child will be able to use it on a daily basis and help them through those difficult times of the day. Well, until next time, craft on. Bye guys.
Can you see me flying by your side?
Welcome back to Autism Live and to Ask Dr. Doreen. Dr. Doreen Grandpichet is here with us and she's answering your questions in real time. Please send your questions in. We get to this point in the program and we have to, figure out and prioritize. So I want to go to this one next. Could you please help me? My 3-year-old is so determined to eat, and they said but as I read, I think what they're saying is sand. Because as you read forward, this is such a shame as we live close to a beautiful beach and he so enjoys running free and paddling in the water and climbing over the stones. He has severe autism, but with the help of your advice and strategies, he is now looking at me and can follow and comply for many things. He even puts his arm back into the seatbelt when I ask. He has learned some words now, but over sand there is no dissuading him. He dives down and gets it no matter what I say and do. It's such a shame I can no longer take him to the beach. Thank you so much for all your help from your wonderful program. Jargon of the day is a wow. We love jargon of the day too. Don't know what I would do without your help, as we are not in the U.S. and have no services here. And we're sending you hugs.
Absolutely. And don't worry, this is, believe it or not, fixable. So, but it's a step-by-step thing, and you have to, like anything else with ABA, I think you need to shape it, and it'll be a gradual process. So let's say give yourself a couple of months, and just this is the main thing you'll be working on. But the concept is, there's 2 things about this, and I don't want to forget to say the sensory aspect of it. So, one of the things, behavioral will deal with getting rid of this behavior, but the main issue is, why is this behavior happening? And I'm pretty sure your child probably has other sensory input issues, certain disintegration. I don't know what it would be. Like, he possibly, if he's into sand, he's also into playing with water and stuff like that. But let's try to, and perhaps he's into trying to figure out the texture in his mouth. How old is he? We don't have, 3-year-old. So, one of the things that happens a lot of times with babies, and I know everybody's seen this, is that babies, in order to identify or just to become familiar with something, they'll put it in their mouth. And that's one of the early ways that we sense things, is through our mouth. Whether or not that is what's happening here, I really don't know, but we never want to just get rid of a behavior without knowing what the function of it is. Like, really, what is the function of this? Is he trying to figure out something about the sand? Is he nutritionally deficient, where he's getting maybe salt from the sand? I don't know, but those are the things I would like you to look into, because it would be important to make sure that if there is a nutritional deficiency, we replace it, we take care of it. So, like, look at this as a sign. Sometimes our kids don't do that with sand, they do with chalk or with, and so it's different nutritional things that they've found in that product. Or it could be a sensory type of stimulation that they're looking for, in which case you find something else that resembles the sensory stimulation of sand, and we produce that in his food, so he's getting that sensory stimulation. So figure that out. But in terms of behaviorally, what you need to do is you will start with very, very baby steps, as I always say. So you take him and get help if you need to, because he's fast, but go to the beach, and you will try very hard to block him from taking sand and putting it in his mouth. And the way to do that is literally to keep him busy with things that are contrary to the ability to do this. So this is kind of like, let's say, how does he do this? First of all, he'd have to bend over and reach the sand, pick it up in his hands and put it in his mouth. Okay, so there's a number of things you could do. For instance, you could put mittens on. If you have mittens on, you can't really, maybe it's harder to pick up sand. So that's one thing you could use as a block. Another thing is you literally hold his hand and don't let him run off. You hold his dominant hand in your hand so that he's not able to release it initially. So initially you will put as many constraints as possible so that he cannot get the sand to his mouth, okay? So that's called blocking. And then what you will do is very, very gradually you will reduce these particular blocks so that he's more and more free. Now, the first opportunity where he actually does pick up a piece of sand and put it in his mouth, you leave the beach. You immediately leave the beach. So the punishment for doing that is it's a response cost. He will give up the ability to be on the beach if he puts the sand in his mouth. And you will do this 100 times, and it doesn't matter until he realizes that the only way I can play in the beach is if I don't eat sand. As soon as you start giving him some freedom gradually, you'll replace it with appropriate sand tools, toys, maybe take him to the water, whatever. You will still need to keep him busy with other things. So you can't just like expect him not to go back to a bad habit without giving him something else. Ideally, if we figure out the function of this thing, if we can figure out, let's say, he really enjoys that kind of texture in his mouth, then you'll go ahead and maybe get yogurt, and you'll put, I don't know, some other, like crushed nuts in the yogurt, and then that is a similar texture. Then ideally, as you're sitting on the beach, you'll allow him to eat his yogurt. So you'll want to replace the sensory need or satisfaction or the function, whatever it is he's getting out of that. But in the meantime, you also want to prevent him from eating the sand. So, that's how you do it. Every time, if he ever gets to do it, you'll leave the beach, and in the meantime, you'll introduce him to the beach very, very gradually, removing those prevention blocks very, very slowly. And as you remove them, you will keep him busy, keep his hands busy with other activities, toys, things that will keep him occupied and keep his hands busy.
There's a word where Jack Riley is running off when they go outside, and he loves to go outside, loves the break. And this is a different behavior, but the way in which they dealt with it is very similar. And if he let go of his mom's hand on the sidewalk, they would instantaneously come in. And I think it might be worth it for you to watch that and to see what the parents' reaction, because they don't enjoy it.
No.
They're like, this is terrible, and we have to bring him right in, and it really is miserable. And then you get to watch them go through the progression, and within a couple of days, Jack Riley is back outside enjoying, and it's fun again. But he tries to bite his mom when she says, all right, now we have to go inside, and she's holding on to his hand for dear life.
Good
and he
point.
tries to bite her hand. So I think it's worthwhile to see another family going through that similar
Definitely.
sort of thing, and see that they survive it, and that
Definitely.
and the dad is like, I don't want to do this. It's not fun. This is not working. And then a week later, the dad's like, this is amazing. Our lives are different as a result. We can go places again.
So it's really important that thank you so much for bringing that up, Shannon, because he might react very negatively to you wanting to take him in each time. And that is a big deal, and you're going to have to be very strong when that happens. He might throw a tantrum. He might try to bite you, hit you, whatever it is, but he's a 3-year-old, that's why it's very important to do it now. And what you do is you simply pick him up and take him in.
Yeah.
And it's not really about the discussion. I don't really know what his level of language is at this point, but assume that whether or not he understands you telling him don't eat the sand, it clearly is not effective. So the behavior change occurs when you change the antecedents and consequences, and that's exactly what we're doing in the protocol that I just mentioned. And the consequence is just losing access to the beach. And he will learn that if you do it consistently enough.
Absolutely. And don't forget, you can watch the A Word. If you go to our YouTube page, it's one of our playlists, and you can click and find all the episodes so that you can see that. I want to move on to the next question. Dear Shannon and Dr. Doreen, I hope you can help. How do you teach a 7-year-old not to touch people and to keep a distance, social distance? He touches people when he wants to get their attention, even physically turns their head towards him.
Yeah.
He also leans on people and can stand too close. He's very able, high functioning, and we did social stories on this and practiced it at home and reinforced, but he still struggles with this. Would really appreciate your advice, and lots of love from the UK. It's the international show today.
That's awesome.
Love
Thank
it.
you so much. And it's funny that you, like, one thing that you could do is the same kind of procedure. You say that he's very social, so his reinforcer is access to these people. If he touches them, you remove him from the environment. He doesn't have access to the people anymore. And that will probably be a big deal for him. And so first you start with that, because you want to make sure that he understands that it's not okay to touch people. Then once the touching is under control, and the touching is really, it's not going to be hard. He's a high functioning child. He's going to get it pretty fast that, hey, if you touch anyone, we can't stand here. So if he touches, you immediately leave. Make sure when you leave, you don't do something more fun. Like, in other words, he loses access to social fun activities. And then, as I said, and then also now you want to go back and you want to teach him what is an appropriate distance. That, I think, with some of our kids, is just harder for them to, it's hard for him. He possibly, I'm guessing, also has some issues with theory of mind, perspective taking. So from his perspective, it's hard for him to understand other people's perspective of how they feel. In the long-term solution to this, and I don't know if you're using skills or not, but if you are, I would go back and start with very early perspective taking lessons, because that's going to influence many, many aspects of his life. One of them would be this, which is, if you want friends and you want people to like you, you have to be able to think as they would. You have to be able to put yourself in their position. And if he was able to do that here, he would be able to tell that people don't like it when he touches them, when he turns their head, and so on. Now, which makes me think, if you have this, let's say, familiar people that he does that to, let's say your friends, siblings, I don't know, people who he comes into contact quite a bit, make sure you tell them that if he gets away with it and does that they actually tell him, I didn't like that, that wasn't nice, and that they go away. Because it's important for him to be able to, he's not reading social cues. This is what's happening here. So he needs to be able to look at their social cues, and that gives you actually an opportunity to work on social cues with him and to be able to teach him, look, people don't like it when you do that. So, you're approaching it from numerous different angles, teaching him behaviorally, very basic, you lose access to people if you do this, kind of from a social perspective, where you're helping him understand the social nuances and how to read people's frustration or facial expressions. And then you're teaching him the perspective taking, which is the root cause of this, which is kind of, this is, I might feel comfortable being that close, but clearly they don't. So, and this, all of those things together, all of those things you can find in skills. I don't know if you're in skills, on skills, a user or not, but please do go there. Skills is, and if I may take a moment now that we're talking about skills is fantastic for higher functioning children. It's fantastic for beginning children as well, but I believe it's one of the very rare places, or we don't have too many resources in the world for high functioning children, and skills is fantastic because we have those, there's skills cognition, which is the cognitive curriculum, the social curriculum, the executive functioning curriculum. Those curriculum areas are spectacular. You will really, really benefit from the cognition curriculum because that's all about perspective taking. So that was my thing on skills. The other thing is, since Eliana is going to be here and talk about skills for living, is that what it's called now? Skills living?
Skills
you guys,
living.
please, if you know anyone who is older than 10, 8, 10, and all the way through adulthood, please tell them to watch that program. First of all, it is a spectacular, the content is absolutely spectacular. And I want to thank Vanessa Alvarez, who worked very, very hard on that. And then also the design of the new skills is so nice that we're going to be changing skills to look like the design of the new skills because it's a much friendlier user interface. So please do come on board tomorrow if you can to watch that. I will.
Yeah.
I'm dying to see it because I've seen it a few times and she just keeps making it better.
It's really incredible. And so that'll be tomorrow in our second hour on the show. I want to go quickly to a Facebook question. Anthony has written in and said, "Hi, can you help us? Our son will not eat anything apart from unhealthy food. Any tips to introduce healthy foods?" Anthony doesn't tell us an age, but
yeah. So so that's a very broad question, Anthony. But one of the things we do in ABA is feeding programs. And it's they have very specific procedures, so I wouldn't be able to give you a quick answer here, but I'm wondering if there's feeding modules on IBT. There might be. There's a lot of procedures for feeding, and they literally have to do with what I was just talking about, which is shaping behavior. And essentially what you do is you use favorite foods as reinforcers only. So the things that he likes to eat become the reinforcers, and then you take unfavorite foods or foods that he doesn't like, and you start with tiny, tiny morsels of them, and then you reward with the favorite foods. So basically, you will give the child one teaspoon of a food he doesn't like, and then allow him to have the food that he does like. And then 3 days later, when he's willing to do that, you'll make it 2 teaspoons for the food that he likes. Then you make it 3. And as you're increasing the food that he doesn't like, you will decrease the reinforcer, which is the food that he does like, until there's a balance there. And generally speaking with kids, and then of course that's just one food now you've introduced, so now you have to do it with the second food and the third food, and you broaden the diet that way. And generally speaking with kids, let's say on a plate, there's going to be a few items they don't like and a few items they do like. And we all have had that when we were kids, eat your veggies before you eat your dessert or whatever. And so that's kind of the goal that you're shooting for. But it's a process and you will get there. And I'm pretty certain there's video footage that we've done of feeding programs, and hopefully they're on IBT.
And we've done a lot of shows on feeding here on Autism Live. You can search for them on our YouTube channel. YouTube has changed things recently, and so it's really hard to get into our archives. We're kind of changing the way we're having people search. Right now, if you search, just go into a Google search and search Ask Dr. Doreen, a page will come up that is different from this, and it's a card page, and what it does is gives you topics. So you can search tantrums, and then under tantrums, it will give you like 15 different times, and it'll show you what specific question Dr. Grant-Pichet answered about tantrums. When you click on it, it takes you directly to that video in that moment.
Cool.
So we're looking at doing that with all of our videos, and I'd love it if everybody who watches the show takes a minute, goes and tries that out. Search a topic that you like, and then let us know how it works for you, because we're trying to find the best way to be able to give you
information. Yeah.
Yes, so that you can search whatever topic you
That's a
want
great
and be
idea.
able to find. So give us some feedback on that. Try it out with the Ask Dr. Doreen and let us know what you think, because there's a section on feeding where you can see all the times that Dr. Granpeesheh has talked about feeding on the show.
You might even want to just Google my name and feeding. I've done a bunch of conferences where I've spoken about feeding, and I know a lot of these conferences are still online. So
There you go.
There you can find that.
Okay, we're going to take a short break, and then we're going to come and get through as many questions as we can as we get down to the last few minutes. Stick with us.
Being part of this community is really important to a mom with a son like Jackson, because it really does take a village, and you need so much support, you know, to help bring out all of the amazing qualities and skills and talents that our children have. So I'm just very grateful to everybody who was a part of this.
I think it helps with all sorts of that self-esteem, social skills. They seem to communicate a little bit with each other, and they had a lot of friends. The helpers were phenomenal, and I think the social skills for sure, because they, you know, they worked together and they did a couple of group things across the floor, and they sang songs together, and I yeah, for sure, I think it's a really huge deal. A great program.
What programs like this show is the person is in front of what we call today a disorder. I think what we're finding is that these sorts of brain challenges that make people unique can actually be gifts in ways we haven't discovered in the rest of society to bring them out. So when you see a program like this and you see the kids dancing, having fun, and making up jokes, making up the story. I was here when they did that. That was so amazing to watch, because they were all focused, they were all present, and they were all laughing, they were all getting into the creation of this story. And that to me sort of broke the barrier to say, no, first we're dealing with people, and then we're dealing with the challenges.
Welcome back to Autism Live and to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy.
Almost there.
We're coming to that, but right now we're here fabulously with Ask Dr. Doreen, and she's answering your questions in real time. So I want to get to this question. My son is on the spectrum and is 11. He is on a stimulant for his ADHD and attends the local elementary school and does well academically. He has access to many activities and electronics he enjoys, but never seems happy, always agitated and anxious, sometimes even when doing activities he enjoys. He has very little homework and no chores, and he has a lot, and this is all in caps, of free time doing the things he likes after school. What can we teach him to help him be more calm and happy? He also struggles with friendships at school and has several kids he declares as his rivals and gets really worked up when he sees them. Any tips for helping him with that would be appreciated.
Okay, so it's hard to advise on this, but because I don't really know your child, but I just want you to think about something, and I don't know how long, okay, back up. He's on a stimulant, and what you're wishing for him is to be calm. I just need you to realize that those two things are separate from each other. The number one side effect of the ADHD medications is anxiety. the #1 side effect. So if you take those medications, you will feel unbelievably anxious and agitated. So my first advice is to look at the medication that he's on. Sometimes a lower dose might work. Sometimes you don't really even need the ADHD medication if you're doing other behavioral types of intervention. I'm not one that's against ADHD medications by any means, but it really concerns me when kids have anxiety and agitation from it. So I would really recommend that you consult with your physician about that first and tell the physician that the medication is causing anxiety and agitation. And then please don't allow the physician to then add additional medications to balance it out. Just try to reduce the stimulant if you can. In terms of behaviorally, and this whole thing with rivals and so on, that seems to me like he lacks a deeper understanding of levels of relationships. And clearly, when we see people as it's funny. It's like he's kind of on a childish level explaining something that's a very deep concept. We often feel very agitated and anxious when we perceive people around us as competition. And that is what he's expressing. He sees them as rivals. So somehow he's not seeing them as friends. And that is a series of kind of more advanced cognitive behavioral programs that a good ABA program could teach him, is like, what is a friend? What is an acquaintance? If a child disagrees with you, that doesn't make you your enemy. It doesn't make him your rival. The real definition of rival, because really there's nothing they're competing for there. That's a lot of work that should be done, which will just give him a greater understanding of relationships, friendships, etc. A lot of this stuff is in skills if you want to look there. And I think that's really where you should look. Of course, there are also calming behavioral techniques or psychological techniques, like teaching children how to walk away from something and like breathe and calm down. Teaching children how to physical activity, by the way, is a way that tends to increase endorphins and reduce anxiety. So a lot of kids who have anxiety tend to very, very much enjoy working out heavily because it reverses that feeling. So that's another thing you could do. I mean, but I honestly, I think it starts with the medication.
Okay. And I noticed that, when in saying that he has very little homework and no chores, and all that opportunity to things, at 11, there's a part of me that says, too, we've been doing a lot of shows about employment and talking about this disparity that with our kids, we don't put the demands on them that other kids get put on them to get them ready.
Yeah.
So, maybe it wouldn't be a bad thing to put some demands on this child with homework and chores.
Yeah.
Am I totally?
Absolutely. I think you keep him busy, but here's what happens also with kids that are like anxious and agitated. Shannon you might have a very good point here, is that if he's just, in other words, if they have too much free time, they start to, they worry too much about things, all right? I mean, you don't want a child to have just free time and start getting really anxious and agitated about the future, and then it turns into apprehension and way worse things. So yeah, if you can fill his time with activities, that's a good thing. But make sure that you don't, I don't think it's a good idea to fill his activity with things that are demand-based right now, because it will increase the agitation. It'll increase, if you place demands, he will probably have a negative reaction initially. If you're going to start him doing chores, I'm not sure it's the right time right now. Maybe you want to get the medication under control first, or the agitation. I would fill his time with rewarding activities. Sometimes for our kids, if you teach them how to do chores and they do it in steps and you help with it, it becomes quite rewarding, because one of the things he might like is like having a neat environment around him. I don't know. And those types of things will become rewarding. But at this point, I think what you need to do is really figure out what's going on with the agitation because of the medication, but then also try to do fun activities that fill his time.
Okay. I want to shift now to two questions that came in about school, because everybody's back to school now. So this first one, Dear Shannon and Dr. Doreen, my son was diagnosed with ASD and he goes to regular ed kindergarten. His teacher said he's doing well, except that he totally refuses to do the pledge, and he gets overly silly with another boy in class. How do we handle this, and thanks?
Okay, well, I mean, that's just, all you really need is just the someone in school who can focus on that time frame. So whether it's an aide or a teacher's aide or somehow you arrange to have a therapist, we call them shadows. You have someone in that environment, and then really what it is if he gets silly, he either is removed. I don't know if he likes to do the circle time. I assume it's a fun time, which means that's why he's getting silly. So basically it's the same thing. You remove him when he's acting silly, place him back in. But you want to make sure that you're not removing him, taking him outside and allowing him to run around and have a glorious time. No, if you remove him, you go and wait in the hallway and then you come back when circle time's over. That's one thing. Separating from the other boy is another thing. Working on it at home is an important thing, because I think sometimes we just assume that our kids will pick up stuff and we haven't prepared them for it. So at home, if you have an ABA program, if you have someone who can help you with this, you really just want to mimic circle time, and you want to discontinue and remove all reinforcers if he starts acting silly. And reinforce heavily when he doesn't. That is very important. You do it at home, you do it at school. If he actually gets through, circle time and he's not acting silly, then you will reinforce him heavily. Now, another way to look at this also is if you start the circle time procedure at school, if you're even just doing it there, and you are able to stand right next to him and tell him, okay, we're going to behave, or just mimic what we just did at home. And, you want to shape the behavior, so progressively longer periods of time should be reinforced. So maybe if circle time's, 15 minutes, or I don't know what it is, you would probably want to reinforce his good behavior every 2 minutes by giving him maybe a sticker on a sticker chart, so that at the end of 15 minutes, he's gathered X number of stickers and he can get a bigger reward, whatever that may be. So you want to reward the good behavior, prevent the bad behavior as much as possible, and you can prevent it by either practicing at home and then having him model it at school, redo the whole thing at school, or standing right next to him and controlling him, or removing him when he behaves badly.
And about refusing to do the pledge?
Yeah, so the pledge will then be part of the whole thing that you do at home, and you will practice it. And that's not going to be a very hard thing, I think, because you can just have him start by doing a section of the pledge, reinforce him heavily, increase the length of the pledge, reinforce him. I don't know if the child reads. You could always prompt him. Maybe he's refusing to do it because he doesn't remember the pledge. I don't know what the reason is.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing to refuse not to do. Now, the other question was, good morning, what are your suggestions for what you refer to as attention-seeking behaviors in the classroom? I'm getting notes home from school saying my son is crawling around the room, making noise, and trying to get kids to laugh at him, but he ends up in school suspension and misses classes. He sees the school psychologist for self-regulation skills. He can tell me what they are, but he says he forgets them when he's frustrated. What can we do to get him to use them in the heat of the moment?
So really, we need someone in the classroom with him to try to prompt him and remind him, because clearly he's not able to think of the correct techniques and things that he's supposed to do at that moment. But more importantly, I want to ask you, what leads everyone to believe that he's on the floor and doing these things in order to get the kids to laugh at him? What if he was doing this in order to be removed from the classroom? Because then he is getting what he wants. So my recommendation would be to not remove him from the classroom, but actually have him sit up and sit in a corner and have to pay attention. That requires someone to be in the classroom with him.
Okay. Unfortunately, we are out of time, but we thank you so much for being here. It's
always a pleasure.
I don't even want to tell them, but we won't have Dr. Grandpichet live for the next 2 weeks. We will have something else really spectacular for you next week, and then we will have Evelyn Kung back with us the week after. But in 3 weeks, we will have Dr. Grandpichet back, and we will all look forward to that.
Thank you very much.
We're going to take a break now, and as we do, I would just want to remind you, don't forget to enter the contest to win the set of Easy Lunchbox. It's one complete set with the lunchbox, 4 containers, and the special dippers. So you're not getting 12 containers there that it shows in that picture. It's just showing you the different color variations. You'll get one set of those. It's a set of 4. They're fabulous. They're BPA free. They're dishwasher safe. Super duper easy because they have the compartments and you can just fill them up with whatever, slap the lid on, and the lunch is done. And so Kelly Lester was on the show, and we're giving away one of those. You've got 2 weeks to write to us at autism-live@gmail and say, I want the Easy Lunch Boxes. Okay? And send us your mailing address so that we're able to do that. We're going to take a break now, and when we come back, it's time for Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. We have our very special guest, Vince Redmond, who's a licensed marriage and family therapist. He's going to be with us. And then we also have a guest who's going to be with us a little later on in the hour who has a wonderful organization teaching basketball skills to our kids who are on the autism spectrum. I find it wonderful that somebody wrote to us just last night and said, we need more about sports. You had the person talking about physical training. We want more about sports. I got you. And Vince Redmond also is somebody who coaches soccer, so we're hoping he's going to talk with us a little bit about what that's like as well. So stick with us. First, here is the A word.
Have fun.
Okay, bye.
He's starting to sit a little bit longer, and he gets the idea, okay, if I sit, get my stickers, then I can go. This is actually a 10 token board, but right now he's only on 5 right now, but eventually we'll move him up to 10. It's a good way for him to visually see, that there is an end. Like once I get all the board filled up with stickers, then I can leave.
Jessica does a preference assessment to see what Jack Riley wants to work for before she begins her first trial.
Okay, what do you want, pancakes or do you want bubbles?
Bubbles.
Say I.
Or pancake.
Okay. Do you want pancakes or bubbles?
Pancakes.
Pancakes? Say I want pancakes.
Pancakes.
Okay, sounds good. What's your dad's name?
Mike.
Mike, good job. Here you go. Gonna put the J on?
Push the J on.
Put the J. J. Good job. Nice job. When's your birthday?
December 15th.
December 15th. Good job. How old are you?
2.
Nice. Can you show me the fingers?
2.
2. Good job. Here you go. What's your mom's name?
Cheryl.
Cheryl. Very good. Whoops. Whoops. Here you go. Put another one on there. Where does the K go? Good job. What does it say? Jack. Say Riley. There you go. All done. Here you go. Say it's good. Okay, go play. See you later.
What?
Here, you wanna bring the tractor?
Elbows.
The pig, yeah, it is a pig.
Wait.
Okay, buddy.
Lining up objects is associated with autism because it shows that the child doesn't know how to appropriately play with toys. This is why Jack Riley's therapists teach play skills, so you can learn how to learn. Playing is learning through imitation, and it also helps develop communication skills. This is why the behavior is redirected.
Let's make a bridge for the dinosaurs. Are they friends? Should we walk? Let's walk. Let's walk. Yay! Let's go play. What else can we do? Jack, what is this? It's
Is it this way? Is it this?
It's a this way?
Is it this way?
Is it a bridge? Did you make a bridge? It's a bridge. Can the dinosaur walk on the bridge? Walk on the bridge?
Walk.
Can you make the dinosaur walk? You do it.
Dinosaur walk.
Jack Riley, do it. Make him walk. Walk. Here, slide down. Slide. Whee! Ready? I want to do it. Ready? Whee!
Sometimes lining up toys can be appropriate play. Jack Riley lines up his blocks to build a bridge. What makes lining up toys an indicator for autism is when the behavior is limited and is the only way the child interacts with the objects.
That's more creative, Jack. At clinic, Sabrina suggested to make a visual schedule because he's been having a hard time walking outside. So look, what's this first? There's Dad, there's you, there's Miss Shireen. You're holding hands. Like you're walking on the sidewalk, holding
Yes.
hands. And then when you get to the grass, you stop. Look, you stop.
You stop.
Yep. You stop. And then what do you get to do? You get to run on the
Grass.
say run on the grass. Good job. The end. But yeah, so we were gonna show him like along the way as every step, like you walk out, you hold hand and emphasize holding hands.
Okay.
You hear you guys walking the sidewalk holding hands, and then the next picture is you guys stopping in front of the grass,
Okay.
still holding hands.
Okay.
And then his reward is
You get to play.
you get to play on the grass. And he got the concept or the idea. Anyway, we'll see if put into play, will he get it? I'm sure he'll get it.
He'll get it. That.
Yeah.
Having a destination was the biggest thing for him. Like knowing what the goal was.
I think before you say come here, and he thinks it's over. And yesterday he'd be playing and Cheryl would say come here, and he would run down, and then she'd whisper, you want to go to the grass? And so he just was.
Good.
I think it's all been about, oh, now we have to go in every time we call him.
Or a tantrum he has, or really a lot of his bad behaviors, because he doesn't know.
What do you have to do first?
Remember, what are you gonna do first, though?
Hold what?
You want to do it, or you want me to do it?
Hold what?
Since he sees your picture.
Hold hands. Go hold hands with Dad. Like the picture.
Good.
All right.
Remember like yesterday.
15, 16, 17, 18, 19.
See, we still hold hands.
Can
we
you
still hold hands. Stop.
Right?
We still hold hands.
Where do you guys want to?
Right here, and then we made him ask.
Yeah, then we stop and make him ask.
That's what you do. Can you say, I want to play on the grass? Okay, go.
Yay! Go!
Have you hugged your tree today? You gonna kiss it too? Tree hugger energy.
Come here.
Come here.
Let's go, goes.
Yay! Uh-oh, wet butt. Wet butt. Hey, do you want stairs or grass?
Grass.
Okay, stay with Mom. 10 steps. 10 steps. Ready? 1, 2. Right, stay with me.
10 steps.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You want grass? Okay, go.
Using a visual schedule has helped Jack Riley a lot on outings because he can anticipate what will happen next. And unlike last week, there has been no aggression or biting. Whether it's a token board or a visual schedule, having items JR can see helps him a lot to know what's happening next, and therefore be a lot less anxious.
What do you want? You want grass or do you want... Okay, go play! Yay!
Good morning and welcome to Let's Talk Autism. I'm Nancy Oswald Jackson.
And I'm Shannon Penrod.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I'm so tired. Aren't we all tired? The light is changing.
Yeah, the fall is coming.
And I love the fall.
Yeah.
But I'm tired. And I hear a lot of people saying that. And
yeah.
that
it's
they're
back
not
to school has
sleeping.
been going on.
Yes, a lot going on.
Right.
And then we're about to step on the holiday treadmill, but I'm ready. I want that.
You do?
I do. I feel like I'm not good at beginnings and I'm not good at ends. I'm better at middles.
Okay.
And we're at the beginning of school, and I feel like, I said this to you yesterday, I feel like once we get to October 1st, everybody kind of settles into the routine.
Fall. Yeah.
And then you got all those holiday things to look
That's
forward
right.
to. I like that.
Okay.
I do.
I know you're
It gets a little hectic sometimes.
You're
but
a big Halloween person.
I love Halloween. What do you... Excuse me, you're the Miss Costume person. I beg your pardon. The first time that we did Halloween together, and Nancy was like, we should dress up for Halloween. And I was like, okay. And she says, let's be Lucy and Ethel. And I was like, okay. And I kind of threw something together, and the woman showed up with I think a dress that Lucy had actually worn to the show, and the wig, and had done makeup tutorials.
Yeah,
and
I did all
she
that.
was Lucy, and
Okay.
I looked like George Washington in a dress.
I like to do it with you. I think it's fun to do the dress up with you.
But, you know,
the trick or treat and all that stuff is, always my worst nightmare because of all the candy and all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Anyway.
we'll talk about all that in time.
Exactly.
But in any case, we're here, and we've got a great show, and we're going to be joined any minute by Vince Redmond. But we thought we were going right to him, but he's still in another thing. So as soon as we get word, we're going to do in the news until we get word that Vince is available, and then we're going to drop everything to go to Vince because we really want to talk to him today. And a little bit later on, we have Stacey McAllister, who is going
Hoops for autism.
Yes, so we're going to talk about
511 Hoops, a nonprofit that provides basketball training for youth with autism with ASD.
And I think it's wonderful because somebody had written in just last night and said last week we had somebody on the show who was talking about physical fitness for people on the spectrum, and they said, what about having a coach or somebody sports-wise that works with kids with autism? So Vince is also a soccer coach, so we have you times two today.
Yes, we do.
You're in good hands here. So let's jump into some news until we have Vince. Just out really in the last 24 hours, we're coming to you directly from spectrumnews.org, which is a great resource for news for all things, that there's a bunch of studies that are now saying, and you're going to see this in the headlines all over the place the next couple of weeks, that one of the screening tools that we use to screen for autism at an early age, and typically we were using it 24 months, it's called the MCHAT. It's the modified checklist for autism in toddlers. They're saying that looking at it and comparing when doctors did it at 24 months and now at 18 months, they're finding it is not as effective as they had hoped it to be at 18 months, that it can misdiagnose.
Right.
Now, so this is going to be all over the news that they're going to say the MCAT doesn't work at 18 months. I would like to throw something on the pile that perhaps one of the things why we have said early diagnosis is so important is that if you can catch a child before they get behind, then perhaps they don't have to get caught up at some
Right,
point. Perhaps
right.
they don't get behind. So I just want to say, first of all, the people who did these studies are not recommending that you don't get the MCAT at 18 months. They're saying just be mindful
That it's not as effective.
It's not as effective. And that until something that is effective, it's the only thing that we have at that age, until that we don't throw it away. And what if the reason why they're saying it isn't effective is if those kids were diagnosed at 18 months, got the help, and never actually needed to be diagnosed to begin with?
That could be.
So I'm just throwing that out there. We have Vince, so
Vince is
we're
here.
gonna
Take a
drop
break.
right over to Vince. Vince, as you guys know, is a licensed marriage and family therapist. He's somebody who has worked in the field of autism as a therapist for many years, then became a marriage and family therapist. He's a regular here on the show, and we love Vince.
Yes.
Vince is just such a warm. You know, I always feel like when you're with Vince, you're in good hands.
Yes.
So Vince,
Here
welcome
he is.
back.
Hi, Vince.
Hello.
Hello.
Good to have you here today.
And thank you for, I know you got a really busy morning, so thank you for being with us.
No problem, no problem. Had a little bit of computer issues, but I got it fixed.
Okay, all to the good. So Vince, you know, it's been a crazy week around the world with a lot of different events that happened, hurricanes, we've had floods, we've had fires, there have been earthquakes, and even more than that, really. And one of the things that we were hoping to talk with you today is how do we start to have conversations with our kids before these things happen to prepare them without scaring them?
It's difficult. I mean, I think it's scary for everybody, right? I mean, I think natural disasters are something that's, especially, in different parts of the nation, it's an anxiety that we all have. And I think that's where it comes into that those prep courses, those, preparing for, events like that, so that there's somewhat of a predictability of what to do if something like that happens. So if there's an earthquake prepared kit, an earthquake prepared, escape plan, again, if you live in a fire zone, what is the escape plan then, so that we can prepare each other. Now, sitting down and going over it, reviewing it as a family, so it's more of a family affair. It's not something that's built around fear, built around anxiety. It's more, this is what we do as a family if this situation occurs.
Now, I remember once a long time ago, I don't think it was on the air, you and I were having a conversation talking about this when Jem was little, about what to do. And I remember one of the things, because I said I'm afraid of scaring him, one of the things that you clued me into then was making it like a fun game. Here's what we do if an earthquake is coming, and we try to find something to cover our head. Now let's play the game. Who can find a place, and doing it in different rooms. Do we just do that with the little ones, or we do that with the older ones as well?
Well, I mean, I think the concept is the same. The way you do it might be a little bit different, but the idea is making it lighthearted, making it more problem solving, more something that builds a sense of confidence with them, builds a sense of understanding with them, so that they're able to, if ever needing, and God willing never, have to put that into effect, that they would know what to do. Remember when we played the game about earthquakes? Okay, now we need to really do it. Let's find somewhere to hide, or let's find somewhere we can get under, or let's wait till it stops. Now we go outside, and all of that then becomes familiar again into what they do. So with the younger ones, like you were saying, I think playing games like that is actually really good, because it puts it in a sense where they're engaged, they're learning, they're having fun. There's no anxiety that's attached to it. However, if it ever needed to be implemented, then it could be resorted back to, remember that game? This is what we do.
And you suggest doing this with kids whether they bring up the topic or not?
I think, depending on where we're living, I mean, obviously in the East Coast with the hurricanes coming, there was plenty of time to prepare for them and to talk to them about it. I do think it's good to talk to them about things, play games, with that. It's kind of a little akin to school, how they do stop, drop, and roll. They do earthquake drills. They do fire drills throughout the year just to prepare the kids. I think it's probably a good idea as a family that those games are played at least a couple times a year, just in preparation, just in case something happens.
And since you brought that up, because I think one of my biggest fears is that something happens when my child's at school.
Right.
But there is a great in IBT, in the Institute for Behavioral Trainings, under the teachers, there is one that is specifically designed to help a teacher deal with if they have a special needs student in the classroom, preparing them and getting through a drill safety. And what a great gift. I think it's $10.
Right.
What a great gift to give a teacher. It's a video that they watch that will give them tips and ideas of what to do. And we have teacher appreciation coming up, and I always say, give them an IBT gift certificate. What better thing could you do?
Yeah.
You're helping them and helping your kid.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic idea, because I really don't think, that there's much difference in the emergency protocols than they have from typical classrooms to your special day classrooms, where we all know that's completely different, and you would need a completely different set of protocols and understandings, practice, and so forth for our kids in those classes than you would your typical school kids.
And I remember from watching it, there's a whole part of it that talks about dealing with the sensory issues during the thing, like the alarms are going to be going off. Some of the alarms have that flashing light in schools that freak me out.
Well, my son had a very bad experience with a fire truck when he was 2.
Oh,
being
that's
taken onto
so
a fire truck when
Oh,
he
and he
was,
didn't like it?
No.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
horrifying.
Yeah, so he's always had a reaction to that.
Oh dear, and because that makes me sad, because that's such a fun thing.
And one of the coolest things that I've seen more recently in classrooms is that they're now purchasing headphones for the classroom. So, the noise canceling earphones for kids, not necessarily for emergencies, however, they could be used in emergencies. But, when kids are overstimulated, or they're starting to feel, or there's an alarm going off, they're able to put their set of headphones on, which helps reduce the sensory input that they're getting. It's good to see that the schools in the field are starting to keep up with some of those sensory needs.
Yeah, because one mistake can really scar a kid for a lifetime. Like
It really can. It really can. But I also, I'm a big fan of the whole idea of rehearsing everything. And so I think that there's something to be gained by doing this with all of our kids, even if there isn't a hurricane imminent.
Or a fire,
or
an earthquake.
That I actually think that's the best time to do it, because there is something to be said. It's why we do it as adults and why we do the fire drills, because in the moment when the thing is happening, you don't quite know what to do, but your body retains some memory of what it's.
It's also good to have supplies on hand and to talk about why we need certain supplies.
That's true too. Make them a part of it. What were you saying, Vince?
No, and I was saying, like you were saying, it's something to always refer back to. Remember when we did, this drill or this game? It's the same in school. It's the same for adults. It, like you were saying, then automatically you just, your muscle memory, you just follow what you've already done 100 times.
And you know what else? Not only that, but you were okay that time too. And that's something that a kid will, over a period of time, remember, and that you can remind them. Remember, we've done this before. We've practiced this before, and you were okay then, and you're going to be okay now.
Yeah.
And that's very soothing. Yeah.
Okay, well, I think we've got some good groundwork here.
But I also, Vince, I don't know if you saw my email this morning. We had a question that came in, because last week on the show, we had a wonderful
coach for kids with special needs.
And he does
autism.
Physical fitness stuff. So runs a gym and does physical fitness stuff. And somebody wrote in last night and said, that was great. Now we'd like to hear from a coach who has had someone on the spectrum on their team. And we've got a coach that's going to be on in just a few minutes that's going to be talking about working with basketball with kids on the spectrum. But I know that you also coach soccer, and I wondered if you could take just a second to talk about that.
Yeah, it's been great. I mean, the kids get out there, they run around, depending on the attention level of the child or the sensory, level of the child. It's great to get them out there, get them around other kids, get them in organized, an organized activity. I think the biggest thing is if you're a parent with the child on the team, is making sure that the coach is fully aware of what the child's, capabilities are, maybe what their sensory needs are, how often they need breaks, those types of things. So then the coach is able to build that into their, to their lesson plan or into their practice plan, so that they're able to do that. Because I've coached several kids over the years and, refereed, games with kids with special needs that were mainstream. They were on regular teams. They weren't in the VIP league. They were on the regular teams where, with some coaching, with some encouragement, with reminders and reinforcers, just like we do in treatment, they're able to succeed. They're able to, to participate, and they're able to have a great time.
It's a wonderful thing. I think it's a great opportunity for all of our kids.
It really is.
I know Wyatt, he's been involved in sports his whole life, between basketball, baseball, football, and swimming.
Yeah. And we did Little League. I have to be honest, we're not the sports family.
Right.
My husband and I both are not, that's not really our thing, but he does a lot of swimming and things like that. And right now, Jem is running, hoping to run in the marathon this year.
That's amazing.
We'll see if he actually is able to do it, but there's a team at his school that they run in the marathon. So, so that's a good thing. But we're not really the team sport kind of people. I did team sports in high school. It wasn't my favorite thing.
Right.
But I think that it's really good for a lot of our kids, it really helps them to have a sense of camaraderie. Don't you, Vince?
I do. And to be honest, I think it's good for the parents too to be able to be on the sidelines and see their kids having a good time.
Yeah.
Participating with other kids.
As long as we don't participate in the yelling that can happen on the sidelines, right?
I think we tend to be a little less competitive as parents of special needs kids.
No, but personally, my thing is the parents who are competitive, who are freaked out because your kid is playing. I can't deal with that.
Yeah, I know.
I have no time or space for that. I'm like, your biggest problem is that my child is playing on your team. Good for you.
Yeah.
In any case, I know, Vince, that you've got a meeting, so we want to let you go, but we thank you always for your time and your expertise and your energy.
Thank you, Vince.
Thank you so much, Vince.
Great rest of your week.
Thanks.
You too.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Let's take a short break and then let's come back and finish up the news. Yes, and then we're going to have Stacey McAllister. Before we go,
you
over the
went
weekend,
to a fun thing over the weekend.
Yes, we went to the Ed Asner poker tournament, Poker with Ed, and we had a wild and woolly time. It was a wild and woolly evening, and a lot of money was raised for autism that benefited the Autism Society of America. And they talked about the fact that, those funds were going to be going to help with people from the hurricanes, and it was really star-studded. The red carpet, I kept joking and saying that it was 700 degrees. It was probably just slightly less than that, but it was so hot we were all dying.
You talked to a lot of wonderful people. Who did you grab?
Well, and we're going to see a highlight reel here in just a second. The whole interviews are available still on our Facebook Live. You can watch the uncut, unfettered mess. Because, on the red carpet, when you're live, it is a mess, and there's, sometimes you have not a whole lot going on, and then you have too much going on, so it's like that. But I would say the big highlights, Rosie O'Donnell ran up to us and said, I know you. You're Autism Live. I watch your show.
Which is just great.
And then we had a lovely chat with her, which was just divine, because she's part of our tribe. And for the longest time, there was a period of time in which she wasn't disclosing that. And she's now disclosed that her youngest child was diagnosed with autism and that she considers herself new to the community. And so she's been watching the show, which just made my night.
Of course
right?
it did.
But there were so many other wonderful people. Lou Diamond Phillips was there. I'm trying to think. Patricia Heaton was there. Matthew Modine. Daryl Hannah was there.
Right.
We spoke to Daryl Hannah, not on camera, and she said that she would be interested in coming and being on the show.
Wonderful.
So we're hoping that will work out. It was the other highlight for me, and I don't know if everybody loves, but I love Randy Rainbow.
Right.
So I was over the moon about that, and he did a lovely, luscious little side interview for us because Samantha, bless her heart, passed out on the red carpet during our interview with Rosie O'Donnell. We lost Samantha because of the heat. It was crazy how hot it was. And so, we stopped and dealt with that, and Samantha's fine, and she was fine later on that evening, but it was a hairy, scary little moment where we were all a little bit nervous.
Well, you've got a great video. Let's take a look at it.
Yes, let's take a look.
stuff a lot because my daughter was diagnosed a year ago in October, so we're not even a year through yet. And I've been watching your...
I want to die. I just want to die.
I watch it.
Did you just say, who is this? You just took my drink. You could at least pretend you know who I am.
That's right.
I'm extremely famous.
This is Randy Rainbow, Andy Dick, and there is Lou Diamond Phillips.
Yeah.
And
He's
is
a
shining Randy Rainbow's shoes. No, that's real, you guys. That is absolutely real. There's Lou Diamond Phillips shining.
Okay,
That's
how
true.
much are you going to give him? How much are you going to give him?
Oh, love him. Thank you so much.
25
Andy.
cents.
Thank you.
Andy Dick just stole my drink. I don't
I know, I love you too.
I've never gotten my dad.
I hear it's your son's birthday today.
Yes, it is.
And so, where were you 15 years ago? Were you there when he was born?
I was in the sack.
Okay.
What's the matter?
She's gonna faint.
Why? Why?
So
Okay, let's get her some cold water. We need you. Yes.
I want you to know Samantha's okay, and we are hydrating her. There's Samantha. See, she looks good. She survived.
So it's nice to see Rosie kind of came to the rescue there of Samantha.
Yes, she was so sweet the whole night. And you know, those are sort of our adult moments, some of them. And but there are some really nice interviews that we did too that you guys are going to have available to you on Friday, just the edited versions. You can watch the raw footage. But some people who said some really wonderful things about our kids, some wonderful stars. One of the actors from SEAL Team was there and said some really beautiful things. And Ed, we had that moment there. You know, Ed and I have a very fun relationship where we give each other grief. But he said some lovely things. And so many kind stars who came out that night and really did their level best, whatever was required to raise money. They were silly during the auction. They played poker and they kept, you know, buying more chips, and it was really lovely. It was
great to see the community come together.
So nice to see that, and it was a fun night.
Yeah,
wow,
I know you had a good time.
Yeah, we did.
All right, so we have some more in the news. Congress wants to change the Americans with Disabilities Act and undermine the civil rights of people with disabilities. This is out of the ACLU report.
Yes, and I think it's really important that we all be mindful because it starts out with just something little that wants to be changed, and then suddenly we've gotten into an area where it's like, wait a second. And right now, I understand with the economy, and it's very hard for businesses, that it's very hard for a business to become ADA compliant. Yes. I get that. But so this new proposal is saying that they won't necessarily have to become compliant within a certain amount of time.
No.
That you can open your business and take perhaps years to get your business ADA compliant.
And it's now incumbent upon the person with the disability to point out that it's not ADA compliant.
Which is, you know, and I know when you're talking to a business owner, they go, but it's killing us, right? But do we want to go back to the days when we're just excluding people and saying, I'm sorry, if you don't have the use of your legs, you can't come in.
You can't come into our establishment.
Is that really, because I don't know about you, you were raised with a brother who had special needs. I was raised by a mom who had a physical disability. And there were things that we as a family couldn't go do because my mother's wheelchair couldn't get in. Or my mother couldn't get there on crutches. You know, I think we have to be really careful, and as the autism community, it would be very easy for us to say, "Oh, this isn't a sticking point for us."
It
will
all
be.
of us.
It will.
So
be.
it's a harmful new bill, the so-called ADA Education and Reform Act of 2017, and it's gaining steam. It's HR 620. and we must stop this bill from ever becoming law.
And this is coming to you from the ACLU. So I hope that you'll join Nancy and I in talking about the fact that this is not what the autism community wants to see passed as well.
Now, on the good side, we've got the feds awarding millions of dollars for autism research,
which is wonderful. National Institutes of Health are distributing millions of dollars to universities across the country to conduct research projects designed to increase what's known about autism.
That's right.
We love that. That's a really exciting thing. I know we've had some concerns about what the research funding is going to be, so this is good news.
Right, very good news.
Fabulous.
And then we have another story out of CNBC about scientists narrowing down the startling risk factors that can cause autism, saying that childhood or prenatal exposure to toxic chemicals such as pesticides and hormone-disrupting phthalates, is that how you say it?
Phthalates, yeah.
Phthalates found in plastic and some found in air pollution play a role, and mothers who have bacterial or viral infections during pregnancy or those who are obese are more likely to give birth to babies who later develop autism.
But the key thing for me in this study is that childhood or prenatal exposure to toxic chemicals such as pesticides and hormone-disrupting phthalates are a cause of this, and that air pollution is playing a role.
Yes.
We all need to get mindful about this. I think there's so much controversy that swirls around the causes of autism, but we all, I think the entire autism community understands that at this point that there are things that change in the child of a body and that it's because of environmental insults. We can spend the rest of our lives arguing about what those insults are and ticking them off. And we're having a lot of pushback about people not wanting to do studies about certain things because it doesn't behoove them to. But there are things that we can all take control of right now, and the amount of exposure that we all have as human beings and that we pass on to our children for pesticides, we can all be mindful of that.
That's right.
There is a movement right now to become more organic and to have more measures to make sure that organic food really is organic and that it isn't frankenfood, GMO food. And I always say, fight all the battles that you want to, but make the changes that you can immediately.
Within your own sphere.
And this is something, there may be bigger things that you want to fight that you can't change right now.
Right.
But feeding your child the healthiest, pesticide-free food that you can, and making sure that their environment and the things in their environment are as non-toxic as possible. We all have the ability to do something towards that end.
Yes.
And if you want to know more about that, we can do a whole show about that. If you still have non-stick pans in your home, I want you to start with getting rid of those.
Okay.
Not good for the air
Good
quality
idea.
in your home.
Okay.
And there we've gotten rid of all the sponsors that we would have had that were non-stick cookware. Poof, gone. In any case, we think that Stacey McAllister is here.
We're going to be talking more about sports and
He
autism.
is, he's here.
Okay, he is here. And we're going to come back to hear about his wonderful program, 511 Hoops, which is a nonprofit that provides basketball training to youth on the autism spectrum. So stay with us.
This is the Act Today, One Hope Act Today for Military Families Run and Festival, and it's to benefit military families challenged by autism. So we're out here for a great day. Not only is there a 10K run, a 5K run, and a 1 mile fun run, there's a kids run and there's an Easter egg hunt. Military families are particularly hard hit because they have very special circumstances.
I have 3 kids in my family. You know, my nephew has 3 children that are all on the spectrum. And for me, it originally became about understanding and learning about autism. And then it became about, you know, what can I do to help? It takes $3 million to raise a child through their lifetime with autism. That's a great reason to get involved.
On your mark, get set.
One Hope Wine is the 7th annual title sponsor of the One Hope Act Today for military families, because we believe that giving back is good business. Of-age runners are probably going to meander over to the One Hope and Stone Beer and Wine Garden for a celebratory glass. For the younger generation, the Family Fun Zone.
This is a big thing for us because it's about getting more treatment to more people, raising awareness. It's a really good event. We're proud to be a part of it for 7 years now, and we're a local office, so we wanted to be here.
Stroller Warriors is a free running club for military spouses and their families. A lot of us are impacted by autism, so it's just a great way for us to get together and raise some money and bring attention to this important cause.
I think people forget the people element involved with autism. You know, the families that are suffering, the children that are suffering.
Society could be robbed of so much untapped potential, talent, and skills if we're not helping the children of these military families as much as any other children out there. Not just those suffering with autism, but those struggling.
People should get together and tell their friends and family to donate to Act Today. It's a really important cause, one that's close to our heart and the San Diego community as a whole, and an incredible opportunity to support the military. So get out there and donate.
A lot of adults don't really believe kids. They'll think, kids are kids, what are they talking about? But when a child stands up for what they believe in, it's so strong and powerful. I first got involved with autism advocacy 4 years ago when my friend was diagnosed. When I found out about my friend's diagnosis, I didn't really understand what it meant. But it didn't matter to me or change our friendship. I didn't look at her any differently. We still had so much fun together. Now I know that she experiences life a little differently than me, and that's okay. Knowing what she goes through has helped me to understand and be more caring towards other people in similar situations. I got involved with Act Today because I wanted to do whatever I could to help. They provide options like behavioral therapy, medical care, social skills programs, assistance to military families, and much more. Being there for my friend was my #1 priority. I've been volunteering and spreading the word about the cause via my social media platform because raising awareness is a crucial first step. There needs to be more kids and teens involved to make sure that our voices are heard just as loudly as the adults. You may be small like me, but your acts of kindness are not.
We are back with Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy, and we're joined by now Stacy McAllister. Hi, Stacy. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, and yourself?
We're doing great. We're doing great. We, as promised, this is about basketball and autism.
Yes.
And Stacy, first, let's talk a little bit about your background in basketball.
Okay. Well, I played collegiately at Claflin University in South Carolina. After graduating, I had the opportunity to play in England. I played for half a season, and then 3 years ago I played in Brunei, which is located in Southeast Asia.
But things changed a little bit for you when you welcomed a son into the world. And I understand, how old is your son now?
My son is 6 years old.
Okay, and is it okay to talk about him and the fact that he was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder? And that probably changed your life a little bit, yes?
Completely, yes. Completely, yes.
But you seem to have landed completely on your feet.
Right.
Because as Nancy always says, sometimes this opens up a whole new world.
Right.
You say your disability is sometimes your opportunity.
Right.
And you've taken this opportunity as a dad who knows a bit about hoops, and now having a son, you've decided to not only teach him about this, but to create something that teaches a lot of people.
Correct.
Yeah, so tell us how 511 Hoops, which is named after your son's birthday, 511.
Yes, that's correct.
How was that born? How did that come about?
It's an interesting story. So like I said, after college, I had a chance to go to England and play. And I was home for about 2 months, and I was actually going to leave again to go to Australia to play. So about a month before, that's when I found out my son was diagnosed. So I was at that fork in the road. It was like, hey, do you go play, or do you figure this out? You have to learn about the different interventions, the different therapies. So like I think I made the best decision. Stayed home, did all the therapy, learned. I didn't even know really too much about autism, so just getting information about autism and learning all about the different therapies. 3 years later, the coach that was actually going to sign me to play, he had opportunity. He knew my situation, and he said, "I have opportunity for you to play in Asia." And I'm just like, you know what? I'll go. He said, "You leave in 2 weeks."
Ooh.
I said, "Okay, that's fine." He said, "You'll be there for about a month and a half." So went there and played. The coaches and a lot of people in Brunei knew my situation with my son. So they linked me with a guy named Ken Han with an organization called Shooting Stars of Brunei. And they're just an organization that does basketball training for children. And he said, "Would you like to do a basketball clinic?" I'm just like, "Sure." So he says, "It's going to be for the Special Olympics." Okay. Now keep in mind, I never did basketball training, I never coached, but I played basketball my whole life. So I did an hour clinic with the Special Olympics there, and I just threw out drills that your typical basketball player would do. I mean, speed ladder, hurdles, ball handling, shooting, passing. And the feedback that I got from the parents there was, they were amazed. They were like, "This is amazing." The kids loved it. They were wondering if I was staying in Brunei. I was like, "No, I'm going home in a couple of weeks." So in between the time between games, I just started thinking about things. I'm like, hey, it'd be cool if I brought that back home. Jotted down some ideas and came up with 511 Hoops, which is actually my son's birthday, May 11, 2011. Came home, made some flyers, handed them out at my son's speech and occupational therapy center, created a social media page, and recorded video of some of the kids that were working out. And it just kind of.
Where are you based?
I'm based in 2 areas. So I'm based out of Compton. That's one location, one of the main locations that we do training out of, as well as Santa Monica and Culver City during the week, sparingly.
And are these ongoing classes, or are they?
Yes.
They are.
Yeah, so the classes in Santa Monica are on Sundays at Crossroads High School. The one in Compton is at Wilson Park. And during the week, I have individual clients that I work with one-on-one. We do one-on-one lessons, and that's more so in the Culver City area.
And how did you apply some of the therapies that your son was going through to this?
So with the group classes, I apply a lot of social skills therapy. I have the kids interact. When talking with me, I want them to give me eye contact. When I see that they're not focusing, I may do a gesture just to see if they're paying attention. With a lot of drills, always in the beginning, we do a lot of agility drills, jumping, and it gives a lot of sensory input, like a lot of deep pressure.
We're seeing some pictures of what
sensory
the
input.
kids are doing.
Yeah. And from there, we go into shooting, ball handling, passing. I'm always asking them questions while doing drills, getting them to do 2 or 3 different things at once, as well as with drills. I try to get them to do 3-step commands, 2-step commands. So working on different things, working on cognitive development, physical, as well as just socially. So we're working a lot of the different therapies that the children are doing. It's we're all combining that into one around basketball.
And how do you find them responding?
Very well. I mean, I've seen changes in some of the kids I've been working with for 2 years. So I've seen changes just socially, more confident. They're happy to come, as well as like the classes. I've seen a lot of the kids, they're just meeting friends. So I have some kids, they're meeting friends, and on the weekends, they're going out and having little play dates. So I think a lot of it is just a lot of confidence building. Physically, they're getting stronger. It works on gross motor as well. And it all benefits for their development.
Absolutely. I mean, the studies have been showing more and more that anything that crosses the midline helps with cognition. So when we look at a sport like basketball, where at some point when they're dribbling, sometimes they have to dribble with this hand on that side, that's crossing the midline.
Right.
So not only are they getting that physical exercise that we talked about last week and helping to be more toned and be more healthy, but they're getting that social interaction. When they're better at these skills, when they're on the playground, they're less likely to be picked on. So it's
Right.
helping to make them bully proof, and it's building their cognition. It's kind of a win-win-win-win-win.
Yes.
So a remarkable thing. How has your son responded?
He's doing pretty good. He's not to be honest, he's not a fan of basketball.
Not yet.
Not yet. I mean,
Okay.
he's so young. But honestly, with a lot of the agility drills and jumping, I mean, he loves to run. So that really helps him because he needs a lot of sensory input. So those drills for him works out tremendously, and it gets him to calm down. I can get his focus.
Yeah.
But I think in a more social setting with the group, he sees the other kids doing it, so he tends to mimic them. So it does benefit, as opposed to me working one-on-one. It's like, Dad, why are you making me do this?
Right.
I do see a lot of changes with it, just getting his focus with it.
I also want to say, too, one of the things CARD has discovered over the years, because they're taking data to phenotype autism, because we all know that there's different types
Correct.
of autism. There's one particular type of autism that I'm keyed into because it's the type of autism that my son has, that some of you may be able to relate to, that our kids don't make particularly good eye contact. They're bad for a while. They're bad with handwriting skills. They're not good with catching a ball. And then later on, they're not teaching them to ride a bike and tie their shoes is difficult. And that CARD has discovered that all of that goes back to the catching a ball skill. And if you go back and perfect the catching a ball skill, and it could be a big ball, the rest gets easier. And because there's a hand-eye coordination thing that is involved in all of those things that is fixed by catching a ball. And it doesn't have to be a baseball, which is harder to catch.
Right.
Catching a basketball, which is a little bit nubby and it's bigger, it's easier visually to track, can do the same thing. So really helpful
These
for
skills
lots
help
of
to
different
build
ways.
on other skills.
Absolutely.
So tell us how people can get in touch with you if they're interested in working with you.
Yes, there are multiple. Well, you could email me at 511hoops@gmail.com. You can reach out on the website as well. It's 511hoops.com.
Okay.
Facebook, 511hoops. Twitter, 511hoops, as well as Instagram.
But your hashtag is dribble.
Dribble for autism. So
autism,
you look
with
at
the number 4.
Correct. If you type that in anywhere, probably just on Google, that'll come up.
Okay.
So you could get in contact with me from there.
Wonderful.
Okay, and we hope to see more programs like this across the country.
Definitely.
You're talking about maybe expanding these groups?
That's the plan. We'd like to expand more out throughout Los Angeles, as well as San Fernando Valley, Orange County, the Inland Empire. Hopefully grow from there.
And maybe franchise around the country,
definitely.
around the world.
There's a lot of need.
Well, since we've got you, I just want to take one more minute because it's so infrequent that we have an autism dad, and our dads need to hear from dads in the worst way. Because I think we can all admit that it affects moms and dads in different pockets and areas.
Yes.
And I think it's harder in a lot of ways for the dads.
Yeah.
And there are many dads who don't know what to do and find themselves going and putting their time and energy into work. What do you want to say to dads so that they can be, what's helped you to get back involved in your son?
I think it's just patience. I mean, I think every dad wants to have their son being involved in sports, but you can't look at it as it's a burden. I mean, children across the spectrum, there's so many things they can do, and you'll be surprised. So maybe sports may not be their thing. It could be, you have to find that niche, that talent that they have.
That you can relate to.
That you
your
can
child.
relate to and go from there. I think that's the biggest thing, because if they can't communicate with you verbally, they do feel you, and they can feel energy. So I think connecting with them, find something that you can connect with, and gradually throw new things at it, sports or if it's music, gradually throw stuff at them. So as, you know, as they get older, maybe they may tend to, you know, like that activity. But it takes a lot of patience, and I think enjoy it, embrace it. It's a beautiful journey.
You're clearly a very proud dad.
Oh, yes,
and that's
definitely.
a wonderful thing. Is he your only? Or do you
I have
more
a son,
kids?
I have a daughter. So I have my son's 6 and my daughter's 3.
Oh,
so
okay.
she helps out a lot. She's the little sergeant in command.
Okay.
And that, you know, that's the best
Yes.
therapist
Oh,
for
yes.
for a little boy, to have a bossy girl.
Yes,
Oh,
exactly.
yes.
You're lucky.
She's just like, I mean, me and his mom, we have commands and she follows suit and makes sure he's in line with it. And she's only 3, so.
So she knows. She's her own
She's
little
a
personal
taskmaster.
Oh,
therapist.
yes. Oh,
I
yes.
love that. What
Well,
a
keep
wonderful
up the
thing.
good work. This is a great program, and we commend you for taking it on.
Thank you.
So dads, listen to these words about getting involved in the things that you love that maybe you can then transfer to things your child can
Absolutely.
get into as well.
And 511 hoops, or you can put in hashtag dribble for autism, the
Yes,
number 4.
Right. Correct.
Stacy, thank you so much for
No
being
problem.
with us.
Good to
Thanks
have
for
you.
having
We're
me.
going to take a short break, and then we're going to be back to close out the show. Stick with us.
Okay.
Are those your eyes? Is that your smile? I've been looking at you forever, yet I never saw you before. Are these your hands?
As a celebrity, whatever that means, you want to do what you can to give back. The way I've always looked at it, if I'm available, I'm going to be there. And when you get there and you see what folks are doing and the lives that they're touching, how can you not want to continue to be a part of it?
And for the first time, I am looking in your eyes.
What can we all do to make a difference? Not only with trying to find a cure, but to help the children and the families that may not have the resources for these kids.
When you're looking back at me, now I understand what.
And none of us are doing enough, but I think that we're doing as much as we possibly can. Because we all live in a society, and the more we can all do to help society, the more it helps all of us.
And for the first time, I am looking in your eyes. And for the first time, I'm seeing who you are. I can't believe how much I see when you're looking back at me. Now I understand what love is. Love is for the first time.
So just looking at the fabulous Brian McKnight, who was an activist winner, award winner at Denim and Diamonds last year, we had it coming up this year, October 22nd. So.
And some really amazing people that you're
Yes, we're
honoring this year.
number one, Olivia Newton-John, who's just
Which, bless her heart, she's going through it, and
she's
the
going
fact
through it
that
and
she's
being
still
very
helping our
public
kids.
and helping our kids and doing her
Amazing.
thing and out there talking about her recovery from cancer after being diagnosed again after a long period of time where she was
Absolutely.
cancer-free.
And that's happening on the
22nd of October.
22nd of October.
Yeah,
Denim
at the
and
Four
Diamonds.
Seasons. You can go to our website at act-today.org to find out more.
And we'll be live on the red carpet, so
Yes, you
that'll be a
will.
very cool thing.
Yes.
We're out of time here, but I want to talk a little bit about tomorrow's
Yeah,
show.
tell us about what
We're
you've got.
having Shoshana Abraham on the show tomorrow. She is an amazing young woman who has a business called Getting Caked. And I'm so excited about this because she can do anything. They're beautiful, gorgeous desserts, and she can make it any allergy that you have. I haven't talked about this much, but on Friday it's my birthday, and so she's bringing me a cupcake that's
birthday is
gluten-free. It's gluten-free, dairy-free, and it has no bananas in it. And I'm trying to
Yummy.
think, no chocolate, because I'm allergic to chocolate too. I don't ever get to have cake. So she's bringing me
So
a
you'll get to
cupcake
eat
tomorrow.
cake
Well, the day before
the
my
day
birthday.
before your birthday.
So she's going to be here and talk with all of us about how she's made a science in the kitchen to figure out how to make something look and taste good. I can make something, but it doesn't look tastes good, right? But she's going to show us how to do that gluten-free, dairy-free. And then, of course, we have Bonnie Yates, special education attorney, who's going to be with us. And then, for the first time on the show, Eliana Thejeda, who is the CEO of Skills. You know we love Skills. She's going to be here to talk about a new product that they just launched this week. It's called Skills Living. And we talked about it just a little while ago with Dr. Graham Bichet. It's amazing. The first time I saw Skills, I got so excited I shook for 2 hours. This is the equivalent and more for anybody who's 14 and over.
Okay.
All the things that we've been saying, yeah, but how do we teach them about the checking account and all? And it's all of those things. Skills has 8 curricular areas. This has 16.
Okay, very
and
exciting.
it's amazing. Everything from relationships through, you know, how do you handle finances, and you can customize it, because as we see when our kids grow up, they all need very, very different things.
Right.
So there's one part that's just on functional communication, but for those of you who have kids that already have functional communication, you just don't do that curriculum, right? And you go on to something else. And
I'm very
even
excited to hear about this.
It's
Wyatt,
really
getting close
thrilling.
to the age of 16, I need to start focusing on it.
There's even a lesson on how to ride an elevator,
right?
Which I said to her that when we were talking about this, I said, "Oh my gosh, my son needs that. We just did all this traveling, and people were giving him the stink eye on the elevator because he was standing too close to them, or you know." And I don't know how to teach that lesson, so she's got it all lined out for us. It's Skills Living. You're not going to want to miss that.
Very good.
Don't forget, though, we've got a special contest going right now. If you watched last week with Kelly Lester with easy lunch boxes, Kelly gave us a set of easy lunch boxes to give away. You just write to autism-live@gmail.com, say, I want the easy lunch box. Samantha's got it for you right there. And please check out our footage.
Great.
Oh, they're
easy lunch boxes.
Oh my gosh,
wonderful.
they're fabulous. We're out of time. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me.
And yourselves a hug from me. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye for now.